Today, I'd like to talk about what is the Hindu theory of justice. What is the idea of justice that is peculiar or that is foundational in Hinduism? Now, we know that in the Christian and in the Muslim and in the Judaic and in the Zoroastrian tradition, we know that these are scriptural religions and that at a very fundamental level, there is a notion that God is the judge. There may be, like in Islam, there are two, Mumkir and Nankir. There, that there's a good angel or a bad angel, and that there is a record which is kept. And of course, in Hinduism, we have the same thing. We have the notion of Lord Yama. Yama was the first mortal to die, and he became the king of the underworld. He was known for his justice. And there is the notion of Chitragupta. In fact, the famous Kayast or writer caste of India, which has been tremendous, which has done tremendous things for India, the Kayast. If you are, belong to the traditional educated sort of classes in India, what were called educationally forward classes, it is inevitable that you have so many kayast uncles, aunties, friends, But kayasts are actually a very small percentage of the population. If you look at their historical footprint, if you start writing down the names of all the people who are kayast, who have been influential in the Indian independence struggle or in literature or in poetry or in acting, Amitabh Bachchan, oh my God. You'll say, oh my God, such a tiny, tiny number has had such a big impact. Of course, that's in the north. In the south, we have got slightly different, but similarly, there are educated castes. In Kerala, you have Ezatachan, the teacher caste. Fantastic, my God. But I don't want to emphasize my South Indian aspect because, to be frank, a real South Indian should know two or three languages and scripts and be able to read this and read that, and मैं ये सब नहीं कर सकता भाई. I am very cheap and low level Hindu, rubbish Hindu, and I am very proud that according to Hindu Dharma, I am untouchable. Of course I am. I was not even born in India. How can I be bloody touchable? I am completely achara brushed. I mean, not even achara brushed. I was born outside. First male in my family lineage, born outside the country. So how can you be in Germany? That too, I was born in Germany. And no, कुछ गायत्री मंत्र जनेऊ कुछ नहीं पहनता हूँ, कुछ नहीं पता, 100% अछूत. Yeah, you can say Brahmin Bandhu, but actually Brahmin Bandhu means something, it's very insulting. So I'm really saying about, and I keep the name Vivek Iyer. Iyer is a good Brahmin name, Tamil Brahmin, most backward type of Brahmin, but very, very poor, very honest, plain living, high thinking, and I hope some Iyer will watch this and say, oh my God, why is God punishing us? But let's be frank, look at Mani Shankar Iyer, and then look at me. I'm better than Mani Shankar Iyer because I don't hate India, I don't hate Hindus, I don't want the country to go down. But why should I? If India goes up, the whole world benefits. Whereas if it does stupid rubbish and nonsense, for some virtue signaling reason, nobody benefits. Nobody. Anyway, so let me now speak a little bit about what is the Hindu theory of justice. How does it arise? Let's talk about that a little bit. So the first point we can make is that justice is, the word nyaya. Nyaya is the word for justice. But what does it relate to? Where does it come from? And you see, firstly, there is, and I'm going to give you a slightly different nirukta. I'm going to give you a little bit of a different sort of etymology and so on, which of course ignorant people are welcome to do, but spiritually advanced people have also done this. Firstly, I would say aya. What is aya? Aya. What does it mean? Well, it means a natural growth similar to compound interest. It's a burgeoning. It's something which grows. And unless there is aya, the profit of a type like compound interest of a mutual sort, unless there is aya, there is no bloody point in having a theory of justice and punishing this and doing that. If the boat is sinking, get off the bloody boat. So this is the first point I'd make. So in economics, this is called exit. There are three things, Hirschman says. There is a voice, there is loyalty, there is exit. But the most important is exit. If the thing is sinking, don't start talking about bloody justice and so on. Get off the boat. And any mechanism for justice, has to be, you have to judge it by seeing whether it causes aya or it doesn't. So what is this nyaya? What is the nya? And really, I would say naya, aya. So something which is a little bit new, which is a little bit different. It's a innovation in mechanism design such that a profit can be secured, mutual profit, everybody, positive sum game. So this is the essential idea behind the Hindu theory of justice. That firstly, now let us look at the very notion of vidhi. People will say, what is law? From Hindu point of view, in the old days, they would say, vidhi hai or nishedh hai. That means that there is either positive injunctions or there are negative injunctions. And another way to say it, let's go all the way back to Rig Veda, and you could say it's yam. Yama. Yama means a restraint, like King Yamaraj. He was restrained because, his twin was Yami. Both of them were born from the same womb, but in those days, according to mythology, people were born as twins and they got married, and like in Jainism, you can see that in Jainism. So that was the old theory, and they lived for 10 million years or whatever. But Yama is basically going, hey, you're my sis, you're my sister, and Yami is going, no, but this is nature, forget about law. This is, there are only two people in the world, whether they're brother and sister doesn't matter, they have to, So, in the Rig Veda, Yama is seen, he is the one who is restrained. But Yami is nature, she is Prakriti, she is, you could also say, she is Shakti. And, if you look at the Atma Jiva Syzygy, that Atma Jiva, Shiva Shakti, Prakriti Purusha, all these Syzygys, all these dualities, they have one thing in common. That is that the male principle is restrained and is merely the witness, whereas it's the female principle which is energetic. And just recently we've seen that in Bengal elections, where Mamtadi, she is like Durgama. She destroyed the communists. Could Modi have done so? Forget about it, man. Mamta started fighting when she was, I don't know, 17 or 18 years old. She fought for 30 years. On one occasion, I mean, the people came there to beat her. She's a tough lady. On one occasion, a very senior police officer, SP level officer, he bit her. At least this is what Mumtadi says. And later on, he was her top cop. But he objected to her goons killing some policeman. Then she dismissed him, saying, "No, this is the guy who bit me. ये कुत्ता मुझे मेरा कुत्ता है, मुझ पे भौंकता है." पहले उन्होंने मुझे काटा भी, but that was okay because that was during left front time. The left government told him to go and bite Mamta. And she thought that when she became chief minister, having destroyed left front, this is one thing that Modi and Mamta have done together. They are the best friends. They pretend to fight each other while completely pulverizing Congress, which is Modi's rival, and left front, which is Mamta's rival. But anyway, what I'm saying is that Mamta did, I think she got rid of that guy who, she says, bit her, because he barked at her, even though she was chief minister. Mera kutta hai, mujh pe bhongta hai. So anyway, these are Hindu ideas of justice which I'm talking about. And you see, Nyaya, does it really arise from Yam? And does it arise from Niyam? Niyam means the opposite. Yam is a restraint, but Niyam is a positive injunction. But really, if you see what is our Mimamsa, from the Mimamsa philosophy, or if you, Naviya Nyaya also has contributed to this. The basic idea is that the Vidhi, injunction, whether it's a Niyam or Nishedh or whatever it may be, see, the Vidhi only arises if the mechanism design in society is lacking in some respect. In other words, only if there is a apad dharma, an exigent circumstance, such that something which sensible people would be doing anyway, only if that is lacking, then you have to have vidhi, you have to have a law. And this is the exact opposite of, what actually happens in India, because you'll have 10,000 laws and more laws and more regulations and this and that. And let's look at COVID, And if you look at it, it's not that the money was lacking. It's not that the people were completely stupid. It's not really the case. If you look at Kerala, you have teacher Shailaja. Communist, maybe communist, I don't care. People who are absolutely 100% most devout Namazi Muslim, most devout Nambudri or Nair or other Hindu, they have voted for her because she did a great job of tackling COVID. Why? Because she did the sensible things. And when somebody does the sensible things, there's no need for laws and this and that and more rules and regulations and public consultation and discourse. No. Because you see, Rita is the natural order of things. And unfortunately, in our own language, in Sanskrit, we don't have something which exists in the Zoroastrian or in the Iranian language. As you may know, Hinduism and Zoroastrian religion, their origin is the same, but they, geographically they diverged. One is more prevalent in Iran, or was, until the, now of course Iran is a Muslim nation, of course. But, it's very noticeable that in Rita, from Rita, which they say Artha or Asha, but they have the word Ratu is leader. And the Ratu is a leader who may be, belonging to be a farmer, artisan, blacksmith, whatever. But the leader, if he is guided by Rita, by the natural order of things and the truth, he can bring about a reform. And I think, if you see this arrest in the Parsis in India, many of them, they have been great nationalists, have been great, very good people, but also a little bit crazy. Because, ultimately they don't understand that, it's not so much netas, and we have the word neta. But, netas in India are bloody shit. Everybody knows that. They're completely stupid. And of course, some of those netas were also Zoroastrian. They got hold of the wrong end of the stick. And their numbers are dwindling, and they will, disappear. But still, we have a Parsi dynasty, Feroz Gandhi, Rajiv Gandhi, that's a Parsi dynasty. Nothing wrong in that. Good for them. And, if we could flourish under British rule, why not under Parsi rule? Nothing wrong in that at all. And, but you see, for the Hindu, and here, Modi could say really is a Hindu. And his reliance, if he tries to do everything through regulations, it fails. And he knows it will fail. So now he says, no more lockdown, and we have to find other ways forward. But to find those other ways forward, you have to get rid of all the rules and regulations in a juristic approach. You can look at what, when the bench gets involved in COVID, does it help? No. All they can do is, talk bloody nonsense. And, the problems arose even 1 year ago. But if you look at, actually about 9 months ago, that's when things needed to be done. But the mindset, of that everything has to be done through rules and regulations, there has to be transparency, there has to be consultation, there has to be this, there has to be that. That meant that when the consensus moved in the direction that no, India has herd immunity, and people back in those days, they were saying, just a few months ago, people were saying, नहीं, तुझे पता नहीं है कि ये गोरे लोगों की AAT deficiency है, हमारे पास नहीं है, हाँ जी हाँ. That, white people have to do this, we don't have to do it because we're brown. We're not white people, apart from bloody Aishwarya Rai Bachchan and one or two. Screw them. So, there's some nonsense like this. So, what is the Hindu idea of justice? Let me be very brief and let me put an end to your suspense. The Hindu idea of justice is that it is merely a service industry. And it's not a most important service industry, it's just one service industry. It's like being able to order a pizza. It's nice to be able to order a pizza. That's a service industry, but it's not essential. So, this is the absolute opposite of the Western view, where they say, no, first there's a social contract and then we have the law and all this. Rubbish, there is no contract. There is, relationships do exist, there is interaction. But the law, Vidhi, only comes into its own if there is no other mechanism of a superior type which is not coercive at all. Which is, And of course, in India, people think, no, firstly, we must all condemn this, and then we must condemn that, and go on condemning this, and then condemning that. Because how did India become independent? It wasn't because Japanese bloody invaded and, British Navy was screwed and there's no money. That wasn't the reason. No. It's because we were scolding British, saying, no, bad Britain. Oh, chi. Criticizing them, then finally they left. So this is the Indian view. So there is the Indian view that if you go on saying, no, don't do rape mat karna. Chi. बलात्कार क्यों कर रहे हो? बहुत हो गया अभी बलात्कार करने. अरे थोड़ा जाओ, स्नान करो, कुछ बैडमिंटन खेलो, कैरम खेलो, ये बलात्कार क्यों करते हो? हैं? So by scolding rapists, then they'll stop doing rape. Scolding British went, and also we had to do dharna and satyagraha. This is mad. This is why not do dharna against law of gravity or dharna against poverty? It's mad. It's stupid. You can pass laws, but rights. For a right to exist, there has to be an incentive compatible remedy. In other words, it must pay somebody to actually provide the remedy. Otherwise, the right doesn't exist. So, in India, we have a perfectly sensible theory of justice, which is that it's a service industry, it's something you pay for, it can't really do very much, and that's it. Justice, nyaya, it's like logic. Logic can't really do very much. If you sit in your armchair and just go on doing logic, you won't discover anything. You have to go out into the world, you have to interact with people, you have to do deals, you have to cooperate, you have to learn, and you have to reject a priori siddhant and principles and this and that. And that's how you get ahead. So this, if you know the story of Yama and Yami and Niyam, Niyam and Yam, in yoga they speak of Yam, that the restraints, like Ahimsa is a Yam. But it doesn't give rise to Niyam? No, not really. And screw the Yam as well. Forget non-violence and all this nonsense. Just accept the point of view of Prakriti, nature, because that is what we actually belong to. It is not law which makes us. It is DNA and the fact that mommy and daddy had sex, and and that's perfectly natural, by the way. I mean, no, it isn't. Mommy shouldn't have let daddy. Daddy, how could you do that to my mommy? मैं तेरा माँ के साथ ऐसे करता तो तुझे क्या पसंद आता? Anyway, I don't want to speak only about myself, but I do feel that, if your dad has done this to your mom, how would he feel if you did it to his mom, to granny? So this is how thinking about justice works. It makes you stupid. This, at any rate, is the Hindu theory of justice. Amartya Sen has got an anti-Hindu theory of justice. It is even more stupid. And that's something we'll discuss in a subsequent podcast.